If you haven't heard about unmanned sports production, check out C Sports on their Facebook page, facebook.com/C Sports Philippines, and follow them on their Instagram at C Sports PH. C Sports' fully automated sports production system uses an AI-powered camera that enables amateur clubs, schools, federations, media platforms, and venues to generate live or on-demand matches, including automatic highlights in HD. If you are a league owner, a school, or a playing field owner that is looking for a way to live stream all your games, don't hesitate to contact C Sports.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2020 Asia Volleyball Summit. My name is Magnus Lang. I'm the founder of SportsSync, and I'm also an ex-NCAA Division I athlete.
And my name is Lara, and today we will be your hosts. All right, we are excited to have everyone here with us today as we journey through your student-athlete pathway. All right, but first, we want to thank the organizers of this event. We want to thank, of course, SportsSync. We want to thank HKEVA. And we want to thank Spike and Serve Volleyball Academy for making this event possible.
All right. Also, we need to thank our sponsors. Okay. So C Sports, as you guys can tell, we're using their platform today. It's an amazing platform, making us all look quite professional, but also to highlight, the key stories of today. They specialize in live streaming for sports and production, so they're a great platform to use. Also, want to thank Wilson. They've definitely given us a lot of nice giveaways, but at the same time, they've always been part of the volleyball community. So thank you again for being part of us today.
So let's get right into it. All right. So the purpose of today actually is to bring together the most passionate and talented volleyball players from Hong Kong, Thailand, Japan, and the Philippines. All right. That's you guys watching us right now. And of course, we want to explore how you can use your volleyball skills to get you a scholarship for your future education.
And that's why today we have renowned university coaches from the Philippines, from Canada, and the US. They're here to share their story. They're here to tell you more about the pathway of how to become a student athlete. All right, so first thing to do is I want to introduce to you two very talented volleyball players. I know them quite well. I'm a big fan of them. Their names are Rachel Tam and Savannah Chan. Okay, a little bit about them. Rachel actually received a 4-year scholarship to play Division I volleyball at Evansville University. After she graduated a year ago, she decided to transition to beach volleyball.
Oh, wow.
And now she got a scholarship to do her master's. Okay,
Masters, wow.
so she definitely has a unique story. All right. Second talented volleyball player, Savannah. She went to Lee University playing Division II volleyball, also on scholarship. And then now she transferred to McMaster University, one of the top programs in Canada.
Yes.
Okay, so they have a story to tell. They're a great role model. So here they are.
Hi, I'm Rachel Tam. I'm from Hong Kong. I was an indoor volleyball player for University of Evansville while studying Bachelor of Exercise Science there. Now I transferred to Missouri State University to play beach volleyball there while I'm studying Master of Health Promotion and Wellness Management. There's a big difference playing at home compared to playing in the United States. At home, the roster is basically the same every year. You play with the same teammates every year. But in here, as people got recruited from all over the United States, and you got to play with different players every year as newcomers coming in. That's helped you push yourself to earn a spot on the starting lineup while making new friendships. Our schedule during the season is sometimes hectic. We wake up at 7 a.m., do our weights, and then we go to class straight from there while eating our breakfast on the way. And then after class, we have a quick lunch. And then we'll need to go ahead in the training room and get ready for practice. And we practice for 2 hours. After that, we need to go to study hall, get our study and class preparation. And then we're gonna go dinner, and then we call it a day. Being a student athlete actually trained my self-disciplines and time management skill. It also pushed myself to be successful, not just on the court, but also in the classroom. As a student athlete, I would say the most challenging part is to keep up with school while doing your best in your sports. It is really challenging because both requires a lot of mental and physical focus. Both needs a lot of efforts and discipline. And it's sometimes really challenging to keep yourself on track in both aspects. My favorite part of being a volleyball player so far is the traveling part. I'm a traveler. We always need to travel from place to place to play against different opponents, and that gives me a chance to experience the cultural difference and meet new people there. My favorite memories for playing for UE volleyball is definitely making it to the conference tournament in my senior year. For the first time in 11 years, we make it back into the conference tournament, and it's a big achievement, and I'm glad that it happened in my senior year.
My name is Savannah. I'm a middle blocker, and I'm majoring in communication study. I went to Lee for 2 years, and this fall I'll be transferring to McMaster University in Canada. I decided to go overseas because I would like to challenge myself and play at a higher level to improve my volleyball skills. I would say playing in a foreign country and be a student athlete is definitely more challenging than playing in Hong Kong because the environment here is more competitive. You compete with your teammate on the team to be on the starting lineup. So you gotta work really hard if you really want to be one of the players on the court in the game. So as a team, we're pushing each other all the time in practice to get better together, and the atmosphere is really encouraging and positive. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have to face as a student athlete is the time management part, because every student athlete have a really tight schedule when they're in season. We practice and we travel a lot, so to keep up with school at the same time can be really physically and mentally demanding. So yeah, it can be kind of stressful and it's challenging.
All right. Thank you, Rachel and Savannah, for sharing your journey with us. These two girls, they're so beautiful and powerful, and they're definitely on their way to success thanks to their journey as a student athlete. So, Magnus, hearing their journey and you being a student athlete yourself, does that bring back memories?
Certainly does. I think being a student athlete, first, it's a privilege.
Mhm.
But I think what I miss and don't miss the most is actually, first off, waking up 5, 6 a.m. for early morning training.
Oh, my.
But again, you do this because this is the standard.
Mhm.
You're playing with other very talented athletes. You're in an environment where you're meant to be pushed, meant to be challenged. But again, I think long-term wise, these are the benefits of how you are set up differently, because you can play sports at the highest level and get a quality education.
Yeah, for sure. Being a student athlete definitely gives you that grit to have a powerful kickstart in life. All right, but right now we want to move on to our live question and answer portion. We are going to interview live right here, right now, coaches from the US, Canada, and the Philippines. Of course, they're here right now, right? So would
Absolutely.
you like to introduce them, Magnus?
Yeah. All right. So first, I want to introduce to you Coach Andy Field from World City College, the Philippines.
Hey, coach.
Hey, Coach Andy, how are you? You're still on mute, Coach Andy. Yeah, I think, Coach, you got to unmute yourself for now. Okay. Coach Andy, just want to say, I want to say a lot of the population of people watching today are from the Philippines, so there must be a big volleyball,
Yeah,
passion there.
represent.
Volleyball is really big here in the Philippines, no doubt, no doubt.
All right, good, good. Second coach I want to introduce to you is Coach Manolo Concepcion
Hey, Coach Manolo.
from Eastern Illinois University. How was that? How did I pronounce your name, Coach Manolo?
That was perfect. That was perfect. I almost thought that you were from Puerto Rico, just like me.
I had a lot of practice. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Yes, thank you for joining in. And last coach I wanted to introduce is Coach Tim Lukes from my home country, McMaster University, Canada.
Yeah, hi, Coach Tim.
Hello, everyone. And you got my name right too, Magnus. Thank you very much for getting my name right. Right? And
That I won't get
shout
wrong.
out to, and a quick shout out to Savannah. There's definitely a linkage there, I see.
Yeah. Likewise for Rachel with Coach Manolo. Coach Manolo was a big influential part in developing her and transitioning her to, from indoor volleyball to beach volleyball. So shout out there too.
I think that I learned more from Rachel than many other people around, many other coaches, and so it's an honor to have coached someone like Rachel. So it was really a little bit emotional to see that video from her.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you guys still connect. So I mean, it's lifelong relationships here, right? That's what sports does.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I mean, the whole point today, again, is to bring together like-minded people that have experience in terms of building people up within the student-athlete community, especially in volleyball. You guys are head coaches from renowned universities with amazing backgrounds. So we also have hungry volleyball viewers today that wants to learn more about the student-athlete pathway. So today we're just going to have a casual conversation about questions that they've actually brought up, and we would like to touch upon them. How does that sound, gentlemen?
Perfect.
Ready and
Let's
wait.
go. Let's do it.
Sounds good.
All right.
Go for it.
All right. So the first question I want to ask you guys, what do you guys look for in a player?
Okay.
Anyone in particular? Go.
Let's start with Coach. Let's start with Coach Andy.
definitely we look for a lot of things in a player. One particular thing I look at a player, regardless of the skill level, is the athleticism. Is he or she agile? Is he or she flexible? Does she have potentially the power for volleyball? Because volleyball is a powerful sport. It takes a lot of energy to play the game. You need fast twitch muscles for the sport. So I definitely look for athleticism first and foremost in any player that I get, because I've recruited players that had zero knowledge of volleyball, and I only saw the potential when I see that person's body type. Like I see if he or she is fast enough, how high does he or she jump. So these are the things that are very important to me, and these are the foundations to a very good volleyball player.
Do you guys have like physical assessments that you kind of have the potential recruits do, or is it more you see them at the game and you can see how high they jump or how fast they react? How does that work for you, Coach Andy?
With if I get a player that is top notch talent, I would get that player any day of the week, regardless of the height. But definitely, volleyball is a height centered sport, so I really need players who are, I'm hoping, close to 6 feet or more, especially in the men's game. Like if I put in a 5'3" or 5'4" guy, regardless of how high he jumps, there will be a limitation as to what he can do to perform inside the court.
Mm,
So definitely one of the things I look for is also the height, aside from the talent.
yeah. All right. Thank you, Coach Andy. What about Manolo? What do you have in mind?
Academics, number one for me.
Mm.
I definitely look in a player to care about that part more than anything, just because it doesn't need to have perfect grades, but they need to care deeply about what happens in the classroom, because that's the first sign of great work ethic. And the second thing we look is character. What kind of value will that player bring to the culture of the actual team? And again, speaking of someone like Rachel Tam, I think that she brought that to the program that she went. She brought so much character, so much discipline, structure, that it just created that type of environment around her. So those are the intangibles that I definitely look for, and those are things that you don't find out until you start talking to the actual person, like we did with Rachel, and you were able to help us with. But at the same time, in terms of athletically, it depends on the needs of each year, that we have in our program. So. I like to be in programs that are there are opportunities to build. There are opportunities to go from less to more. So I definitely look for players that are that there to fail in order to succeed. Are definitely looking for players that are systematic or in favor of having a good organized program. And then third, because we definitely train and develop very similar to what they're going to face in the pro league and national team level. I look for great learners. I look for players that will be able to adapt and change quickly, to whatever the structure of the program is at that specific moment of time. We use, an organized type of system where we like every player learning kind of like the same things. We're very stat oriented. So definitely someone that will be willing to compete for their spot, someone that is not afraid to lead, that type of change that we're looking for. And then lastly, of course, is the volleyball part. I think the future of volleyball is in speed and power. Can that player bring one of those two elements or both? And I think that everything else we can teach.
Yeah. I like the fact that you mentioned those three things because we have to mentor many student athletes. We've definitely worked with hundreds of them, and there's three characteristics that we always talk about. One is athletic ability, something you both have said as well, academic interest, and character. And these three fundamental elements are very important to be successful as a student athlete. And one thing that we'll always tell our student athletes, actually for us, is character is actually one of the most important things, because can you be coached? Do you want to be coached?
Right.
Do you want to work with team players? So definitely, what you just said right there, as a student athlete, definitely agree. Okay.
And I think that it shows commitment and investment to the program. Once you get an athlete like that, you're getting gold. You're getting someone that you can build around. So definitely, if you ask me for a perfect athlete, I think that when you have those matters in hand, then it allows you to bring a lot more talent around.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Tim, what kind of players do you look for, or what do you look for in a player? Sorry.
I think what both Andy and Manola have mentioned. I don't think you're going to find extremism when we look across programs, regardless of where we are, even globally. Coaches often talk about finding athletes that fit the culture in the room, so to speak, the culture on the court. Culture is a description of people, and as we have people, we find that their like-mindedness attract them to the place that they generally end up. And so fit is very, very important. And you heard it in descriptions by both coaches previously. And ideally, we're trying to influence outcome, but we are also governed by the institutions upon which we have been hired. And so who we attract is influenced by the variables that we inherit. So academics are massively critical in an education-based model like we are experiencing with the coaches that are on this call. It's easy to then attract the people that may now influence the identity in any given year that you're in. So I often talk with student athletes about brand and what your brand looks like. So whether you're fast or whether you're 6'3", 6'4", whatever those elements happen to be, are part of your brand. And everyone will find a destination that has to match and mix the academics with the athletics. But very, very important not to to kind of brush past the fact that the coaches that are on this call, I'm sure, are basically in it to win it, so to speak, without sacrificing all the things we inherit and we prepare our athletes to be successful with. Our performances are very important, and they have to be part of that equation as we proceed. So we don't lose track of that, but we don't sacrifice athletes for the sake of just simply the outcome. It's not a short-term investment, it's a long-term investment. Some athletes are much longer than others. Some have immediate impact and performance where necessary, and everyone has to contribute to the general outcome of the circumstance. So, blending the recipe together involves the culture in the room. It also involves the things we inherit in our academic institutions, et cetera. And it's a privilege to be on a call with gentlemen with the same like-mindedness when it comes to what their vision is in recruiting and attracting and placing athletes as we go.
Yeah, I think when you talk about culture, I think obviously you've been in the game for a long time, having been a McMaster and having seen the changes there. So I'm pretty sure the culture of how it started in the beginning is very different from what it is now, right, Coach Tim?
Well, some similarities for sure have crossed decades, but we're in the 21st century and we have to coach like we're in the 21st century, and we're all experiencing changes that are impacting our very decision making as we proceed right now. And so all of us, it's inherent in what we do to make sure that we try and stay on the top of our game. And there's one very, very important thing as we proceed, and that is I've always believed that failure is one of our strongest teachers. And that's what, it inherently creates vulnerability. And with that, you become, you learn, you become better. All of us globally are confronted with this situation currently, and I'm not sure what we're going to look like when we come out the other side of this, but I'm pretty certain that our game is going to find its way to continue. We've gone from multicolored volleyballs and white volleyballs and this size and that size and all, block a serve, not block a serve, rule change here and but we still play because we love to play and we love to compete. It's still a fantastic game. The next one I hear is coming is the aquatic game. We're going to play with ankle deep water. Seems to be taking on some interest and some passion now. So we'll see where that goes collegiately as we're moving along the path, so to speak.
Yeah.
We actually have a lot of time to talk later about the situation right now, and the unprecedented times that we have right now. It's very different. But right now, one of the questions from the audience as well that they want to know is, coaches, how many players are recruited each year? Maybe let's start with Coach Tim again. Is there a cap number or is it a rolling number? Yep.
I think it's a function sometimes, Laura, of resources available to you in certain elements, right? So we're historically, over the last 10 to 15 years, a roster size between 18 and 20 athletes. Our roster or our competition element allows us to compete with 14. It's a fair statement to make when I say that we're generally 3 or 4 athletes per year are graduating, are shifting, moving, transferring into higher degree programs, etc. So trying to balance all of that, I would say that 3 to 4 athletes are generally on the radar for any particular year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Coach Andy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Coach Manolo.
No, go ahead. No, I was going to say that it just, I think that perfect roster size is between 15 and 16. But in terms of recruitment, I got here in February. The head coach as well got here in January. So I think it just depends on where we are moving forward. But I will say that because we're trying to build something special, I think it's going to take at least a couple of players per class in order to continue to get better and get better quickly. So I think the number would be the same, like between 3 and 4 players per year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With me in my college, it actually depends on the social condition of my players, because sometimes just this year, one of my players had to stop playing for me because his parents needed him to go to work for the family. So it's a social and financial issue for how many players I get each year. So it depends. Just like Coach Manolo and Coach Tim said, it's right around 3 to 4, but it depends. Like if half my team, even with the scholarships that we give, even with the allowances that we give, some of my kids come from really poor families where even being in the varsity, going to class, they have to have extra time to go and work for their families. So it's a social situation for me, depending on the year. But more or less, it's the same number as the coaches said.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Along the lines of that as well, Coach Andy, then, for your college, it sounds like, you guys are definitely tailoring things to help your recruits and your current players, So what would you say distinguishes your volleyball program from the other colleges?
Well, definitely not the resources, but it's more of, I think it's connected to what Coach Manolo said. It's like in character building. Like I've had a lot of players that went through my program that not only did not know anything about volleyball, but they came from a bad situation. When you say bad situation, their parents are separated, they were always on the streets playing, and they didn't have the guidance during their younger years. So when I entice them to play for my team, I'm like Mr. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm their best friend. Yeah, I'm their best friend, but I'm also their drill master. So in training, I'm strict. I want discipline. I want everybody to listen and follow the rules. But outside the court, if that person needs anything from me emotionally or financially or anything like a person to talk to, I'm always there for these guys. So that's what I think is necessary, that there is a person to guide these players. And I think that is what we do as coaches in my school, because as the coordinator, this is the same message I also say to the other coaches, that after the last whistle, that does not end your relationship to your players. You have to be there for them also when they have a problem, like when there's a death in the family, or if someone gets pregnant, like my girlfriend, one of my players' girlfriend got pregnant and he needs a little support. So those small things go a long way for these kids. And they remember you when they graduate or when they transfer to another school, that's the most important thing I impart to them. So this is the same thing that the school also would want their trainers, their teachers, their coaches, and the higher up from the administration to give to these students, that there's a family orientation. And we try to give that orientation as best we can with the finances or the whatever we have as resources.
Okay.
Yeah, you have, I think, the privilege of having 4 years to really make a big impact on your players, right? I think that applies to all of you guys. So, I think that's something that as coaches, I think majority of it is passion, but also knowing that you have a chance to really make a difference. So kudos to you guys. That's something that I know you guys can all relate to. Okay. Coach Monello, what distinguishes your school from other programs?
Well, I think that the diversity and inclusion that we have in our program, without question, in the former school that I was, in Indiana, we had the most diverse and inclusive roster, players from all over the world, which I think that brings the perfect situation, because different backgrounds, different experiences, different ideas create a better learning environment. Is it more challenging? Of course it is, because now you, of course, have to be more individual oriented in terms of how you approach everyone. So I think it's a learning experience for even for the coaches when you go through something like that. Like, we strongly believe that the more people that you bring from different places, the better of a team you're gonna have long term. Now, of course, that, like I said, it brings the challenges of you having to adapt to the different type of cultures and customs that everyone is used to. So I think that that's what distinguishes our program the most, and we want to do the same here. We want to bring as many people from different countries as possible and try to get them together into what we believe is a really good transition to play in national teams, in professional leagues after college, or if they just don't want to play anymore, at least they have a strong base where they have been surrounded by so many different coaches that it creates the sensitivity enough for them to understand, and have a world citizenship of what is it to be, in a different place with different people that you're not used to. So I think that, that's something that I'm really looking forward to building here, as we have done in past programs. So, and again, as Rachel experienced as well in her former school.
I think one of my favorite things before was that, pregame music or locker room music because we had so many diversity amongst our team. We had, the Europeans, we had the South Americans, so we heard every type of music. So I think that was one really cool thing for an athlete because you just learn different styles and flavor of everything.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what
And
makes
so-
it, you guys were student athletes. You know what's the interesting part? The timeouts, when you have different languages going on at the same time.
Yes.
And then you have different people receiving the message in a different way. And of course, the same way that for me, they have an accent, I have an accent for them. So I don't know. I think it's a really good environment to have, but at the same time, something that distinguishes a program that, just like in any organization, the more different people that you have, the greater opportunity you have in that room to get better.
Yeah, agreed. And Coach Tim, what distinguishes your program from the other?
I think the distinguishing piece, by description, I love Manola's description of the intent for his particular program, because in ours, we talk often about inclusivity and diversity. That is where I think our horizon is set to expand that circumstance. The uniqueness or distinction is, I think, a little bit more on the homegrown description, because Magnus, as you know, I've been there now. I'm entering my 33rd year with the women's program at the university itself, and so it brings an expectation of this is the reliability and the consistency and the continuity that has sort of transpired over time. There's an expectation when you arrive that that's what you're going to receive in terms of when you look historically, here's what's happened from year to year to year. That in itself is a bit of a distinction, but as I said, sort of in the preamble as well, it's very important to continue to move your feet, to continue to expand and to evolve. I think those are things that, even just being on this call is very exciting for me, because the reach out by our institution, I believe, in the international student capacity is going to get larger. There's an intent to expand. There's an intent to attract. And in order to do that, we have to, like Andy's description, we have to continue to surround our athletes, our students, right, with the right tools to be successful both in the classroom and on the volleyball court in our particular case. And that's an exciting time again. So it takes, there are different components over time that really start to generate enthusiasm and energy, right? So I think that is a bit of a distinct, a little bit more homegrown with some continuity, kind of gives it a bit of a distinction as well.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about evolution, I think obviously for coaches nowadays, you guys can't go, travel to recruit locally, yet obviously internationally. So I'm sure this type of call, having a video call to reach out to, to share more about your program and to share more about, volleyball at your respective schools. What would you say is key for recruiting for the players in Asia, and how do they get scouted?
Video, number one. I think that a good video makes a big difference. So I think that this is the number one thing. I'll divide the video part into, I think a great highlight video would get us interested at first, and then a good full match without editing, is the second part. So I think that, just like it happened again with Rachel, I think a great video showed me an opportunity of what kind of competition she was playing against, and allow me to transfer or filter that into how would that look like here in the States. Then I think the constant communication. There's nothing better than hearing from the player itself, and then also that accompanied with the proper channels of people helping them. That has made actually the process easy, with certain specific international companies, of course. But because of the type of help that they receive. But I think the main character in this process is the player itself. So once we start hearing from the player consistently and making sure that they have the grades, okay, number one. Then number two, understanding what the process will take, and then starting early. I think that not just for the Asian community, but it happens with my own island of Puerto Rico, and then in South America. I think we sometimes we tend to start the process later because I think that internationally we have a different good problem to think about. Do we go out and play professionally, or do we go out and play in college? In the States. So because of that dilemma kind of like delays the process in a consistent manner. So I think that starting that process earlier would get everyone a better opportunity to get recruited and get seen in the States, because there's so many great schools in the States. Of course, I'm gonna advocate for mine, but there's so many different opportunities that they can get if they would just start the process early. I cannot emphasize enough that someone that markets themselves better than the other might make a difference more than talent. So, okay, so maybe if I'm actually communicating better and more consistently with a player that might be okay compared with a more talented player that only contacts me occasionally, I'm gonna go with the player more interested. I'm gonna go player with the player that shows the most commitment and investment in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. If I can jump into that too, and I talked about that, Manolo, we're talking about brand. It's around that whole branding component. To give you an idea, athletes that are entering, most of the time that are entering, I've been connected with for more than 2.5 to 3 years. Right when we start when we're starting that process, the attraction has to be, and we are all governed again by what we can or cannot do financially. To listen to Andy's description a little bit of what he can do with City College and Manola in the United States, in his university, attracting diversity across the globe. And if you compare with what we're doing at Mac or McMaster, I'm connected, if you would, 2.5 to 3 years is an average number. So we're building a relationship before they even arrive. Why? Because product wise, we want to make sure it's the right fit. It's the right destination. They're not arriving by default, right? I want to play, I want to play, I want to play. That's a constant design, but it has to be the right destination. And so that's not a month-long project. There are the unusual circumstances where athletes will arrive on your doorstep, right? And perhaps they're a walk-on or they're a red shirt but it's more unusual now than ever. And with with our multiple, our multimedia capabilities, as we get better at this, it's at your fingertips now. You couldn't say hello to an athlete in person simply by making a Zoom call. You'd have to go and watch them, or in a phone call. Now it's a video, and it can happen a lot faster and a lot earlier, a lot faster. Like an Asian from anywhere in Asia, you can now arrive on a coach's doorstep by setting up a Zoom call, or many different platforms where you can say, "Hi, I just wanted to say hello, and here I am." In case in point is the girls that are on the call, like Savannah and Rachel, probably on them. Very interesting.
Let me ask you this: how trusting are you guys first of a video though, versus seeing live in person?
Well,
I mean, go ahead, Andy.
If you don't have the resources to be at the area where the player is playing or coming from, video is the next best thing. Just like what Coach Manolo said, unedited games of the players, you see them in action, no highlights, no highlight films. Definitely that could work. Although anybody can edit a video, but this is the only way that you can watch the player in action in their natural playing area. One of the things I wanted to also add to that is I like what Coach Manolo said about getting the players or who wants to be there, who wants to play for your team, and because the players who really stay with you the longest are the ones who really wanted to be there in the first place. So as much as possible, we want to get the players who really want to be part of the program, and definitely they will be the ones who will be there long term. Um,
Yeah.
personally, if I could travel around Asia to get players, I would. That would be a dream for me.
Yes.
Like I
Yes,
would
yes.
recruit the every month.
Yes,
I would
please.
recruit every month.
Actually, connected
So
to that, Coach Andy, I don't know if you see the question down below. It says, how do I get scouted even when I'm in Asia? So, of course, for Coach Andy, you're in Asia right now, but for our two other coaches, how's that done for you guys?
Well,
Well,
the first
just
thing, right?
go ahead.
Oh, go, no, sorry.
Yes, coach.
We have a lag. The first thing is you can do that now easily, very easily,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
because you can send that note of interest. You can follow it with
Mm-hmm.
film. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same process, right? But it has to be steered by academic integrity. Where do you want to
Mm-hmm.
be? What do you want to study? How do you arrive? How do you get in? All kinds, like those things have to be investigated. We can help
Mm-hmm.
in terms of that volleyball interest, also guiding academic, right, the academic connection. So, but it's as
Mm-hmm.
easy now as it's ever been to be able to reach out
Mm-hmm.
and just say, we have email and all those kinds of things, but those notes
Mm-hmm.
of, oh, that's interesting, right, as you're
Mm-hmm.
proceeding.
Yeah.
I think the
Okay.
important thing to understand is that because in the US there are tournaments every weekend and we're able to watch them, then the efforts of internationals have to triplicate. Like it has to be above and beyond. Okay, that's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is that you ask also like, do we trust videos? I would say like, respecting NCAA rules, depending where they come
Mm-hmm.
from. If Magnus send
If
me a
Magnus
video,
send me a
I'm
video,
gonna trust
I'm
it.
gonna trust
So,
it.
so again,
Yeah,
it just
exactly.
depends where the source is coming from. So
So
that's number one. But if we're able to go to Asia and watch the players, of course that's the best possible option. However, the consistency of emails, the consistency of actually being involved in social media, we even if we cannot reply to you depending on the grade that you're in, we're watching. We're watching.
Yep.
Even if you're posting small clips on your social media, we're interested to see how important this game is to you, how important is you working out. Like those things matter to me. What's the image that you want to present to the world? Coach was talking about branding. That's part of it. So what is
Hmm.
important to you and how much do you want this, is definitely something that influences my decision, especially when talking about recruiting an international player. But for me, it's so appealing to recruit an international player because of the different experiences that they come with, and they come some hungry to play, to be passionate, to be invested, and to be committed. So they already have that advantage that we are already, if we're talking to you, that means that we're definitely looking specifically for a player that had those specific skills that could bring something different to the table.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So,
interesting
I don't know. Like, I
when
think,
we talked.
what do you think, Coach? Do you see it the same way in Canada? Like, how does it work for you? There,
I
like.
would I'm resonating with all the things, Manolo. It's tailoring, given our what we can do and what we can't do. It's tailoring a little bit. And
Mhm.
Andy, I would agree. Like video gives us the taste, but we've not.
Yeah.
For all the people who are listening, we've not seen too many videos of anyone losing matches or losing points or losing sets. And I'll tell you, when we talked early about character, both I'm certain of it, having just met the two of you tonight, that we also want to know how they respond in the circumstances where things aren't going well, where we get a chance to see the true character of what it really means for an athlete to be involved in a team sport. And this is one of the most team specific games we'll ever play in terms of that interaction. You don't get that on video. We've never gotten that on video. So it's all part of that process. And I echo, Manolo, what you're speaking of in that regard too. So it's you got to get out there and you got to watch. It's got to be part of the ability to do that. And the closer we can do that, the better off we are. So connection, and then going from that particular point, right? It's difficult when you're an international, get a chance to do that easily. That's for certain. But I'm putting them all on my calendar.
This type of video is a perfect tool. Like live streaming now, like we cannot go to Asia or anywhere. Live streaming events is the best way, because that's there's no editing going on. So even if you're at training, at practice, go point your cell phone at your court and just let people know, hey, I'm gonna be training and I'm gonna be filming the first 20 minutes of my practice. Film yourself, training, film yourself in a game, have someone carry, the tablet for you, and then have them film. That's the best non-edited type of film that we can ever receive, especially now that we are in this period.
Yeah.
Agree.
Definitely. Okay, so another question. I think we're back right now. So you can hear us okay now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you so much, coaches. So another question that I think is important for our audience to know is, what exactly does your scholarship cover? So as something as big as visas, say, or education expenses, or something as mundane as, say, pillowcases. So what does your scholarship cover?
Andy, coach.
Well,
Maybe Coach Andy. Yeah?
for World City colleges, definitely all academic expenses will be shouldered by the school, aside from allowances for the games. Transportation and food is also available during the tournaments. For visas, that's a bit tricky because it will depend on the level of talent that we are recruiting. I mean, if this person can really turn our program around, then definitely we will look into it and see if we can bring that player to the Philippines. So it's something that, especially now that our school is going online, the education will be online. So I don't think it would be possible for this school year to do that exactly. But once things normalize, we will definitely be interested in seeing top level talent that we can bring in at WCC. And in the past, we have recruited two players from the US and another one from Senegal. Unfortunately, they all went to the basketball team, so it's too bad for me.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to do the same.
Basketball's a popular sport in the Philippines, right? It's too popular there.
yeah. So maybe in the near future, we can get to at the very least in Asia, we can get to recruit Asian players to go to the World City colleges.
Well,
Andy,
Coach
I
Andy,
have
I mean, right
seen
now,
some video that I think Magnus have sent about Filipinian players, and they look really good level there. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. We got talented players.
well, coaches, just want to let you know, we also have Japanese and Thailand and Hong Kong viewers as well. So there's gonna be talented players there. So I guess hopefully one day, Coach Andy, you might get to recruit some of these players to your college. Likewise for Eastern Illinois and McMaster.
That would be a dream for me to make WCC a melting pot for any player outside the country. one of my dreams, make it a United Nations team.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots playing in Canada.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
We just have to sort out the flight issues. No more flying for all of us, right? So.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
Coach Manolo.
Well, no, I'll say that here in the NCAA Division One, normally a full scholarship covers tuition, books, housing, meals, and I think everything else like the fees that the school incurs on. Um, Usually, what athletes need to be aware of is that at times the health insurance, is not covered. Okay, so that's the small expense that the international players need to think about when they come into the NCAA here in the United States. And it's specifically about that subject. And then more so after the situation ends, whenever it does, I think that that's a subject that people have to be aware of. But aside from that, the full scholarship will cover everything that they need coming into the university, and that also includes the visa and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For us, it's almost completely different, and I would use Savannah Hoi Ying Chen's her journey to arrive at McMaster is one of I'm excited because I'm receiving an athlete who's basically made this choice and decision with very, very little financial support. So I use it as the example because it's important to understand in the transparency. This is, I'm not being counterproductive in my recruiting here. It's very important to understand where this all fits. You arrive in Canada, outside the borders of Ontario, you can receive up to tuition and fees, right? That's the full scholarship, right? Inside the boundaries of Ontario, we can give up to $4,500 Canadian, right? And you have to have an 80% coming in, and to sustain it, 70%. There are rules and regs around all of that kind of thing. That's a domestic athlete. In an international piece, right now, we are just at the front in Ontario. We are just starting to arrive in starting to produce financial support that would support international students. So things like tuition waivers or tuition at domestic fees here. Savannah is arriving here at McMaster, having made a decision as a full pay international student athlete, which is incredible. And through that whole process, when we were talking about her, I kept reiterating or making sure that everybody knew, mom and dad and everyone who was helping in the cause, that this is what the fee package is going to look like in her first year, because she had expressed an interest late in that process. So I'm very enthusiastic. I'm fired up, as a matter of fact, because this is another avenue that, in particular, our institution is now moving into that component. If we want to attract more international students, we also have to be prepared to support those international students in more ways than simply to mentoring, those kinds of things as we're proceeding. So it's a unique journey, and she's one of the first few that is kind of proceeding down this path to play and couple that with her academic interests and stuff like that at this point in time, right? So we're just on the tip of the international support piece at this stage of the game. But from there on in, once they are in the program, it starts to shift the support financially that we can actually provide. So we're moving in a little bit of uncharted territory, but it's very important institutionally that they're recognizing the need to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Then what about academic requirements for you guys? I know we're talking about volleyball, but what about the academic piece? I know you guys all have different curriculums, but I guess you guys can kind of elaborate more on that.
I'll start if you want. And so a general arts entrance, in terms of cutoff and things like that, 78%, and that would translate to whatever that would translate from a grade point scale. would give you an idea. So a general arts program would be 78, and then we're a research institute predominantly in terms of engineering and science, and you're looking at anywhere from 84 through 94, depending on the specialties in terms of the bandwidth academically. So it's easy. It's very, very easy to recruit to because the bandwidth is very high. Many would argue that it's hard because they may not have the grade point, but if they have the grade point, then you narrow that down, right? Which allows us to kind of stay focused.
In terms of academics here, number one, I'll start with the test requirement. The TOEFL score that you need to get in is a 61. As you guys might know already, this is a very achievable score in the TOEFL test. Also, opportunities that the school might provide is that percentage of acceptance. I think that it depends now, of course, of what happens after this situation. But it's a school that it's really strong in education, in the program of education, especially early education. It's really strong in the business area. And it's also really strong in specific elements on the sciences. So it's a mid-sized school. I love the location of the school because we are, especially for someone like me that is not from here, we have a lot of big cities around us. So the academic perspective is attractive because the players can concentrate in actually academics in this small city. And then if they want to go and visit bigger cities, they have so many big ones like Chicago, a couple of hours, St. Louis, and other areas. But that's a good balance that I like, especially for our players.
Before I do talk about WCC, I'd also like to talk about Spike and Serve Volleyball Academy, which I'm also part of. The Spike and Serve Volleyball Academy also helps out their students in getting scholarships for other schools. And one of their requirements is also to see that the grade point average of each student is top notch or at the very least above average, so that they know that these students will be all in, not just for the volleyball part, but also for the academic part when they do recommend these students to other colleges when they graduate and when they go after the Spike and Serve Volleyball Academy. In terms of the World City colleges, we do get senior high school graduates most of the time, but we do get some transferees. And when we do get transferees, the first thing we see is if they pass all their subjects. There's no average required to transfer to us, but the first thing we look at is if all their subjects and all their unit they passed all their units, and hopefully they do, and they can transfer to us automatically. Sometimes these kids don't get the right amount of units per semester, so they have to go back a semester just to finish all those units or subjects they were not able to take on their original college that they came from. So these are the things that we look for when we get transferees or when we get high school graduate students. The requirement for each semester for you to hold on to your scholarship is definitely to pass all the subjects. So that's where the best friend coach comes in, because sometimes I have to be there in the library to teach them a certain part of whatever English. I'm not really good at math, so it's English or some science subjects. So, I mean, I can do stats for volleyball, but the math part, it's some stats I can do. But generally, that's the education part of WCC.
Okay. Actually, thank you, Coach Andy, for clarifying that. That actually is connected to our next question, which is sort of a scenario question like what you mentioned. So coaches, say a student wants to transfer in, and they're currently right now in college, and Coach Andy has already said the requirements for transfer students for him, but how about for the two other coaches? Can they do that? Is that something that they can do to transfer in?
100%. I think that it's a perfect situation, especially again for someone internationally, to just transfer to the States. It's a lot easier. The NCAA eligibility process is a lot easier that way as well. So as long as they maintain a good GPA, a grade point average in their grades, so good grades, they can transfer in and receive a scholarship, of course, if available. Know that the opportunities happening right now in the States are really good because now, to be honest, coaches are saving scholarships to see if someone in December would be available or someone, at the end of the semester. So now there's two periods of where there are openings, especially for transfer. So I encourage everyone. Let's say that you are, you're trying to maybe go the first year of school in Asia, but then thinking about giving it a chance to the States. Is a perfect opportunity because you have less requirements to come into the States and get an opportunity to play. Of course, depends also how many years apart do you come into the States, because there's a 5-year clock after graduation in NCAA Division One that you have to compete in within those 5 years for. So if you miss that clock, then it start counting against your years of possible playing in the States in the in Division One.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's I would resonate with what Coach Manila said too. It's doable, and that again, Savannah is a prime example of that. She'll get credit for her academic time at Lee. We have to sort that out. She's eligible to compete for 3 more years in Canada because we have a 5-year clock instead of a 4-year clock. If you exhaust your clock in the NCAA or if you exhaust your clock playing in Asia, right, you will not have any eligibility in Canada. So when it happens and how it happens, there are possibilities are all there. It's again, what are we doing? What is in the best interest of the student and the student athlete?
Okay. So and also now with COVID, I think when you guys restructure your trainings or upcoming season, any recommendation on how people can kind of train right now and improve their game, given that gyms are closed or social distancing? Any advice on that, how one can improve their game?
The main thing is worrying about the things that you can control, and you can control your strength and conditioning. Maybe you don't have a net to go and play and get reps. Yes, you can do reps against a wall if you don't have a team to play with. Yes, you can actually play with your family. But if you stay in ultimate shape and you come ready to get back into the game that way, give me someone that is really in shape, and then the rest we can teach and get better at. So I want the players to remember to not get anxious because everyone is on the same level field right now. Everyone has stopped playing, or for the most part, most countries and places have stopped playing. So worry about those things that are in your absolute control: your body, your sleep, your rest, and your emotional health. Make sure that you continue to be proactive in that area. So not just work on that strength and conditioning part, but keep reading, keep getting better as a learner, keep improving in the areas that you have no excuse to be second on.
Yeah. Well said.
Well said, yes.
Yeah, absolutely well said. And coming from a physician's background, also the physical component of what they're doing right now is the best thing that can happen for their mental and emotional health, as Coach Manola said, right? It isn't a time to kind of wonder and kind of take a different path. For us in Canada, this is a normal time for our strength regimen. We train right now in this format, in fact, twice a week, right? Where we're actually training at home, but on a team format using different software platforms, etc. So we're still training as a team and doing those things, but those are going to be very important getting us through to the other side of this pandemic. If we lose track of the physical, it won't matter what we do technically, because we won't be prepared for it properly. So echoed, and I resonate the same thing.
So
Coach Andy?
with with us here at WCC, we do have online training. Definitely, the first thing that you need to know is how big is the area that you can use to train in. And some of my players can't go out or use the local courts in their barangays. So you know what we do is I tailor fit the program on on the size of the venue that they will be using. That's number one. Number two, we do body weight resistance training because not all of my players do have dumbbells or barbells at home. Um, One thing that we should all be aware is that you don't have a ball, you don't have the equipment necessary. So just be creative. If you don't have weights, get like a 4 or 5 liter jug of water, fill it with water. There's your weights. There's your barbell, dumbbell. You do something with the tools that you have at home so that you can still do the training that you do in the gym minus the ball, minus the volleyball skills. You just have to stay as strong as you can with the venue and the equipment that you have. Like even a simple rope could really help you out in a lot of ways. Like a jump rope, it could be like a band that you can pull. You do pull-ups with that. Volleyball is a creative sport. It has changed a lot through the years, and we should change with it. We should be creative with it. Um, in terms of the Spike and Serve Volleyball Academy, they also have online training and they also focus on these volleyball skills depending on the limitations that you have at your venue. So definitely that's just something that we always talk about, the creative side. So there you go.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so coaches, we're actually at our tail end of questions. I just want to ask, I'm sure actually we know that the audience have a lot more questions, but if they want to learn more specifically about World City College, Eastern Illinois University, and McMaster, any recommendation of how they can actually learn more?
Well, online, we have an online presence. Just type World City Colleges. We actually have five branches in 5 cities here in the Philippines. I'm the coach of just one branch here in Quezon City. But we do have these branches do have their own teams and they do have their own athletic venues. We also have different coaches for different branches. And if if the people who are watching now are online, maybe later you can check out World City Colleges. Just type the name. City is short for citizen. The owners named it World City. They shortened it, but city is supposed to be citizen, so that's why it's World City Colleges. It's a shortcut. But we're online. We're on Facebook. Um, if you need any extra information, you can message me or the organizer or Spike and Serve Volleyball Academy, and I'd be happy to give extra information about the school and my activities.
Okay. Okay, that just about.
And the other two coaches.
Oh, okay, right. Okay. Yes, Coach Manolo.
With EIU, EIU.edu is a website that they can go and visit. It's pretty much updated, of course. So I invite you to do so. We're really active on social media, so go and watch it. Go and follow us or like us on Facebook on EIU Volleyball. We got here this semester. We cannot wait to get back. Go and watch. Like we do some actually highlights of our training of what we have done. In the 2 months that we were able to work out with the team before this happened. So I invite everyone to go in and and maybe gather some ideas and have fun with it, and hopefully we can communicate. Please stay in touch. Remember, my email is meconcepcion@eiu.edu. Okay, so anyone that can want to write me, they can do. They can Facebook me, they can Instagram me. I'm really active on the media, so let me know.
Fantastic. And I've already bookmarked Andy, and I've already bookmarked Manola because it's that easy. And if we're all there, we're all here, we can easily go there. Right? Very simply, McMaster University, right? .ca, and you can dig out whatever you like. Right? I encourage everybody to get to that. Have an overview of the campus. I'm easily found on that on the web page, and then we can go find a source and find a medium that works for everybody. But I've already, gentlemen, I have you bookmarked. I'm eager to follow from here on in.
May I say something? For everyone that it's throughout this pandemic, also wanting to have educational tools, they can go into the Facebook page Volley Junkies that I run as well, that I bring different coaches from different parts of the world, and they can continue to have some educational growth in the game that we love.
Outstanding.
Nice. We can put that in our description below later.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you so much, coaches. I think that just about wraps up our Q&A for today. If any of you watching has any more questions, you can contact us anytime with any of the contact details that the coaches have mentioned earlier. And we also have in the description down below our contact details and, of course, our social media. We're, of course, available on WhatsApp and Viber as well, but our social media handles are down below in the description. And with that, I also encourage everybody to follow us on Instagram and on Facebook and all our social media to get updated on current events.
Right.
So, viewers, are you guys inspired? Okay. And I think it's important now, obviously, listening to this is to take the next step. All right. So there's two things that you can do, right? If you have any game footages, highlights, I think that's something that you guys can send into the academies. You can send into, there's a form that you can send it out and we can kind of assess your level. Okay. Second thing is, I think it's important, as all these coaches said, you can continue to train, whether it be virtually or in person, but having academies like Spike and Serve Volleyball Academy and HKEVA, they are very good at what they do in terms of developing you, offering you that training, becoming good mentors, right? So there's two really key things that I want to encourage you all to take the next steps on, okay? So thank you, Coach Andy Field. Thank you, Coach Manolo Concepcion. Thank you, Coach Tim Lukes. It was a pleasure having you guys on there, and we hope you guys have an amazing evening, okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. We also want to thank our organizers. Thank you so much, HKEVA, Spike and Serve Volleyball Academy, and of course, SportsInc for making this event possible for today, the 2020 Asia Volleyball Summit. Thank you so much for the organizers. Alrighty. And lastly, I think we need to repeat that for our viewers, Magnus.
You can do it. I think my
Like to. I know how much either.
Everyone is a star. Everyone is a dreamer. Everyone is passionate. And everyone just wants to have a good time. If you're a player who wants to show your killer moves, if you wish to relive your glory moments, if you have true passion for sports, if you want to watch your game again and again, cut your clips, and share them with your friends. If you never once miss your kids play their sports, boy, you're gonna love what we do. We placed cameras permanently at the best courts, fields, and schools in Metro Manila. Hoops Gym, Ronak Art Center, Lourdes, Upper Deck, Vermosa, Prime Mobility, and we won't stop there. We set it to cover all the games live, 24/7, including the scores, timers, sponsor logos, as if we're some professional crew covering behind it. But instead of manpower, we're using AI power. That's right, artificial intelligence. We don't need any cameraman, no editing team. We'll bring you the game like a broadcasting team will bring it to you. With nearly 180 degrees of coverage, nothing is missed. The camera automatically zooms in and out, pans and tilts, and then sends it to your app. As a viewer, you can even switch from HD view to a panoramic view. Mark plays, zoom in and zoom out at your own pace. You'll have full control. The AI will even create automatic highlights for each and every player. You'll have your stats, your news feeds, game schedules, your own highlights, and 10 years from now, all your games are still there. It's freaking crazy, and it's so cost efficient. So, if you know any card owners, if you know any organizers who wish to elevate their leagues, if you are a league yourself, if you are UAAP, NCAA, and you want to cover all the games and make it accessible to everyone, if you want this for yourself, give us a call. We'll answer your questions. 0917-571-5491. Sa C Sports, live ka dito.